Welcome to Pathways, a career podcast from the Idaho State University Career Center. I'm Mark Beaver. Today, we're speaking with Stuart Summers, Associate Vice President of Marketing, Communications, and Strategic Initiatives at Idaho State University. Stuart has an incredibly interesting and dynamic position here at Idaho State University. He's one of these people who always kind of knew the realm of work he wanted to be in. But what's really interesting as we talk is to hear how his values around that type of work evolved and how it led him from one type of job to another type of job. Please settle in and enjoy our conversation with Stuart Summers. Hey Stuart, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming in. I appreciate it.
Of course.
As we were talking about just before we got on the mics here, you have one of these jobs that, when I first started working here, I think I saw the title of your position somewhere, and it was just one of those things that I was like, what is this? And like, this exists at a university? It's very interesting. So can you just once again tell us your title and kind of a bird's eye view of what that looks like?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am the Associate Vice President for Marketing and Communications here at Idaho State. And in short, I am the creator of buzz. So it's my job to build buzz about Idaho State University. And I use the term buzz because it's excitement. You know, how do we get people's attention? How do we tell the story of Idaho State University? And whether that may be with prospective students, our alumni, the community, our faculty, staff, current students, whoever it may be out there, you know, what do they know about ISU? Yeah. What's their connection to the university and that buzz about being at Idaho State?
Yeah, that sounds like a fun.
It's a fun job.
It sounds like a fun job.
It's a fun job,
right?
Yeah.
You get to be kind of the hype man.
I like that hype man for sure. Yeah, and there's so much hype here. You know, you're familiar with the campus community, and the listeners may have some familiarity with it, but there's just so much going on. And oftentimes people are like, oh, I didn't know that was happening. Kind of the reason of your podcast, right. You know, these jobs that exist, and that's my job to say, okay, how do we let people know about what's going on? And it's a hard job because there's so much going on and you're just filtering through a bunch of content, but it's a fun job.
It is. I mean, it's an exciting time, I feel like, to be at Idaho State University. I mean, I got here about 3 years ago and I feel like I came in on a wave.
Yeah.
And like you're saying, it's hard to keep up sometimes.
Yep.
But that's also, I think that's one of the great parts about working at a university or just living in a college town as well. And one of the reasons why I was drawn to this job, living down here. For yourself, what things do you love about your job? What brings you kind of like a daily satisfaction?
I love that you called it a wave because I like riding this wave.
Yeah.
And so for me, the things that bring me satisfaction is every day is something different. I come to work in the morning and I'm like, I don't know what's going to happen today. Mm-hmm. And I'm excited about that. You know, we might learn about an event that we need to promote. There may be some marketing collateral that needs to be created, some photos that need to be taken, a video script that needs written, an event that needs planned. And that's the exciting part is I'm somebody, I don't want to plan everything out in my life. I want it to kind of change week to week. Now, sure, there's going to be some things that are consistently, we want to be strategic about. Right. But overall, every day is something different. And it feels like, you're just along riding this wave and you're riding it in a good way because, things are exciting. It's surging. There's fun. There's optimism, like you mentioned, in the last 3 years. There's just been a lot of enthusiasm for Idaho State. And I feel like I get to be part of that. Yeah. I'm not the reason for that. I just get to be part of telling that story.
I do think that you probably are a pretty big part of that, but reason for that. But also, is that, so you said something in there that, I think is so important for people, or just thinking about careers in the early stages or thinking about, maybe even changing careers, is that idea of like, your job is different every day. You got to be adaptable. Yeah. There's kind of this unknown element. And you indicated that you like that.
I love it.
Right?
Love it.
Do you kind of thrive in that situation, do you think?
I thrive in the unknown. Okay. And when others are like, oh my gosh, it's changing all the time, I can't keep up, I love that part. Yeah. Because I'm somebody that I like to, be faced with a situation and you have to quickly make decisions of how you're going to navigate it. One of the aspects of my job is public relations and working with the media and working with journalists and really figuring out how do we help them understand the information they're seeking and how do we tell the story of the university, answer their questions, make sure that we're being transparent, we're being honest and open, but also that we're protecting the image of the university and our brand and the name of Idaho State. And so a lot of that PR stuff is in the moment decisions. It changes all the time. You know, you might get a media inquiry at 4:00 in the afternoon and you have 1 hour to put together your response before the end of the day. Yeah. Or something happens on a Saturday and you're pulled into a situation and you're saying, okay, how are we going to answer this? How are we going to deal with this? And I love that because it keeps things exciting.
Have you always known that about yourself? That like
I have. Yeah. Yeah. So when I was little, my mom used to have this running joke where it was telegraph, telephone, tell a Stuart. And she used to say, anything that you tell Stuart, he's going to tell everybody. He just is like a mouthpiece. He will go out and tell the neighbors and tell other kids in his class and his teacher. And so they used to have to be really careful about what they would tell me at home because I was just like loose lips telling everybody everything I knew. And so from a young age, I knew that I wanted to work in a job that was communications related, communications based. And at first I thought I wanted to be a journalist. And I spent about 4 years working as a TV reporter and loved that job. It was fun, same kind of thing. Every day was something different. But I realized after about 4 years that the schedule, the craziness that comes with working in the media, from the weird hours and the no holidays and all that, I think I have to find something similar but different. And that's where I made the transition to education.
Was there a life kind of event for you, or like was there something evolving in your life that made you want to make that transition? Because like I think for myself, you know, when I was younger, I would have put precedent on jobs with excitement, right? And like I would have at 19 probably said my ideal job would be like a photojournalist for a surf magazine or you know, or a ski magazine where I just travel all over. But as I got older, you know, that kind of like, I might want to be closer to my family. So maybe I'll work in the outdoors. I'll work for the Forest Service, which I did. And even then, you know, it kind of transitioned to, okay, now I'm kind of settling down with someone, a partner who I really enjoy. And, you know, how are we going to make our schedules kind of come, like, where are my values at? Are my values at excitement or making this thing work? And does that mean a job with more stability? So yeah, just for yourself, was there an event or was that just kind of, were you getting burned out? What was it?
I think it was burnout a little bit. You know, I was working as a journalist back in 2008 when the economy started to, you know, take a nosedive, and there was a lot of uncertainty about, you know, where the country was headed, and journalism was changing significantly. When you think about social media now being added to, you know, your duties, and I remember being a TV reporter, and it wasn't just getting things ready for the evening news broadcast. You were working with social media, and this was all new, and it's like, okay, we got to tweet something out from the scene of this accident, and I've got to get a Facebook post ready, and we make sure the web's updated. And it started to kind of feel like you're running in all these directions, and I love that on one hand because, like I said, I liked the challenge of, you know, in the moment you're making quick decisions, but the schedule's nuts. And I was working a morning show the last 2 years that I was in TV, and, you know, I would go in at 3 a.m. And I remember waking up one day thinking, I'm waking up in the middle of the night, it's dark, I'm the first car on the road after a snowstorm, basically plowing the streets with my front bumper to get to this job, and then I'm going to sit in a dark office for 3 or 4 hours until other people start to show up for the morning show, and it's lonely. Like, I didn't like just being the only one sitting in a dark newsroom from about 3 a.m. to 6 a.m. when the show kicked off.
Right.
And I thought, I got to do something different. Like, I'm somebody that likes to be around people. I like the energy of, you know, colleagues and office dynamics. And I thought, you know what? For my own satisfaction in life and that work-life balance, I've got to do something different. And the thought of, I don't want to work another Christmas. I don't want to work another Thanksgiving. You know, TV news journalists, they're working all the time. Yeah. And you have to respect them for that. But for me, I was like, I got to have some time off. I want to be able to enjoy life and not just check boxes every day and then just go through life that way.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, you've done a lot of of values assessments, it seems like, in your way here. Were you able to be intentional about those, or were they just kind of things that were like, as it was rolling, you're just like, wait, no, check that off the list, or like, no, I don't like that. Was it all experiential, or was it kind of like intentional at all for you?
When I was 9 years old, I remember we did a career exploration activity in school. And when you're 9, you're like, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a firefighter, I want to be a nurse or a teacher, these careers that you just know about when you're young. And I still have this little report I wrote, which is it's fun to look back at. And I wrote in this report that I wanted to be a TV reporter. And for some reason, I gravitated to that. And I think it was, like I mentioned, the communications part of my life and growing up and telling stories. And so I always just had that in the back of my mind. I want to be a TV reporter. I want to be a TV reporter. And I think I just thought about it so often and so much as a young child that it just became part of my identity. And when I went to college, I thought, well, I've always wanted to study, journalism. I'm going to do that. And so I did. And I was on that trajectory, and I worked for about 4 years, and I had to make that assessment. I think it was one thing that pushed me into a different career. It was some gradual things over time. And I thought, okay, I've done this for a few years. I'm tired. I'm sick of working the holidays, these weird hours and all the other things I mentioned. And I thought, I got to see what else is out there. What's next? Yeah. And what do I like about my current job that I want to carry with me? And what am I looking for in my next career?
Right. So it's great that you were able to do that kind of as you're going. And also interesting that you had kind of carried that focus from a young age on. I guess, a question that I often ask here, and you kind of answered already, is when you were a kid, what did you want to be when you grew up? Yeah. So was that like that was the first thing that you really thought of, was like TV reporter?
I did, and I have no idea why.
I was going to ask you that too.
I have no idea why. It might partly be because, growing up, my mom watched the news all the time. And it was always on. And at that time, the 6 o'clock news would come on, and you would sit down to watch it to know what was going on in your community. And so I grew up just always, being aware of what was happening. I was somebody that liked to be in the know. I mentioned that I liked to communicate, tell stories. I'd hear something, and I'd go to somebody else and tell them. And be like, oh, did you know this and that and this and that? And they'd be like, oh my gosh, who's this little kid that's just running his mouth over here? I think that was part of the reason why I thought, well, work in TV news. There's something glamorous about being in the know. You get to go out to all these exciting things. You're knowing about the house fire or the car accident when others are kind of curious. You get to have all those facts. And I also like the human feature part of it, where you're able to meet people and learn their story and ask questions and be part of recognizing their accomplishments. And I've liked that. And I think that's part of what I carry to the university, is being in the know and getting to meet people and asking them questions.
Yeah. So I think you struck on something very interesting that you've obviously reflected on a lot. Is do you see yourself as someone who just kind of craves information in general?
Love information. Right. Yeah, I have to. I'm somebody that's constantly reading. I am strangely addicted to Twitter. Yeah. I will just scroll, endlessly until my thumbs fall off, just to find out information. I want to always know what's going on. And in my job here at the university, I have to know what's going on. It's important for me to say, okay, what's going on in all the colleges and the departments, and what are our students up to? What events are coming up this weekend that they need to know about? And why is this important? And we are a community here at Idaho State University, and it's interesting because there's so much happening. I thrive on wanting to know all that because I want to share it, and I need to share it. That's part of that building that buzz is being able to know it, and then how do we tell it?
Right on. So that's having that a couple of kind of built-in, I don't know, skills, I guess we'd say, or maybe just kind of interest, that need to have knowledge.
Yeah, it's a curiosity, natural curiosity.
Natural curiosity, sure. And also kind of thriving in that situation where, you got to be adaptable and stuff's coming at you. What other skills do you think would someone have to have for your job, or do you think that you might have that really help you in this job, as far as we might call them transferable skills, things that are just kind of life skills you'd use anywhere?
So I'll give a couple of examples, and some people are going to wonder what the heck does that have to do? First one, you got to be flexible. You got to be adaptable. When I first started in this position about 6 years ago, it was a different job than it is today. And the needs of our students are different than they were, 6 or 10 years ago. And so you have to constantly be evolving and adapting. And you think about social media, what we used to do with Facebook, we do differently today, and how, what COVID has taught us about being virtual and remote and how we can connect from a distance. So that's been a lot of the stuff that I've had to adapt and evolve and be flexible and willing to explore new ways of communicating and connecting with people. Communication skills obviously are important, and writing skills. I would say having that ability to take complex information and really focus it down to what's the most important thing that we need to get out, and communicating to lots of different audiences. I think people forget sometimes that we have a lot of audiences here at the university. We have our current students and faculty and staff, and they're important. We got to communicate with them, and that's like our number one. We also have alumni, and what they want to know and they need to know is different than, our internal audience, the people in our community, what they need to know. And so you have to be able to strategically focus on lots of different audiences through your writing and through your ability to communicate with them. And then the last thing I'll say, which I think is a skill that everybody should have in every job, is just being optimistic and being able to say, the world's changing. It's constantly evolving. There's always going to be challenges, and there'll be hurdles in front of us. And I'm somebody that likes to be optimistic. I like to say, okay, this is a new challenge today that we didn't think about yesterday, but we're going to get through it. We'll figure it out. We'll make it happen. And tomorrow's a new day, and we're going to be in a good place. And I think that's something that's helped me through COVID. One of my jobs specifically has been all the COVID-19 communications for the university. The videos and the weekly emails and signage and operational levels. That's something that I've had the responsibility to put together. And you have to be optimistic about that. You have to say, okay, right now it's terrible and it's hard and everybody's feeling isolated and alone. And I recognize that. But it's going to get better. There's hope on the horizon, and we're going to get through this. And I think we're starting to see some of that hope come to a realization.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. We're having a conversation without masks on,
which is awesome
for the first time in a while. I think that was beautiful what you just said about optimism. And I kind of have a similar viewpoint that, actually, funny enough, I just read it in a communication from our VP of Student Affairs this morning, but something that I've thought about too is that success doesn't come before happiness. Yeah. It's kind of the other way around. If you can cultivate happiness, or maybe in this case optimism, somewhat adjacent, it's going to lead to more success. Maybe also kind of on that line of reasoning, if your job is not allowing you to feel that, maybe that might be the wrong place for you. If you're not in a job that you can't be optimistic about, it could be time to be thinking about, what other skills can you bring to a different position, and what else is out there.
And you don't have to love your job 100% of the time.
No.
I feel like I grew up with this false sense, I think, that whatever career I chose, I would be like so passionate about it that 8 hours a day, I would be like, man, I'm getting paid just to be so happy about all this. There's no way that's sustainable and feasible. And then people that say, oh yeah, absolutely. There's always gonna be little aspects of your job that, they might not be your favorite part of it. And you have to really gravitate to and focus on the things that do make you happy, and recognize there's going to be parts that, are just some boxes that may need to be checked. But it's true. You need to find a job, though, that brings you overall happiness. It may not be 100%, but for you, what does that look like? And provide that work-life balance. I think we're seeing that with the workforce of today. They're really focused on that. They want to find jobs where they can have that work-life balance and feel good about the contributions they're making, and be part of a community or be part of an organization where there's a culture that they love and they're bought into. And I think we're seeing that in an overwhelming sense that previously we haven't seen. Right.
Yeah, I think there's been kind of an interesting evolution from maybe like my grandparents and possibly yours to their parents, that was kind of like you go do the thing, you do the job, you get the pension, you retire. Then maybe coming out of our parents' generation, at least I felt this way, something that you just said is that, this idea of like, no, don't just work the job till you retire. Like love the job. It should be, you'll never work a day in your life. That's all you'll want to do. And I mean, for myself, and I think that people are starting to realize, like you just said, after this pandemic, is that, you know what, that old idea of live to work or work to live,
Yeah.
maybe isn't black and white. Maybe that's a bit of a spectrum.
Yeah.
And where do you want to be on that spectrum? You know, is it okay to have a job that gives you optimism to go into every day because you know it ends at 8 hours? Right?
Yep.
Like, is that okay to know that, like, you know, this job makes me happy because at 5 o'clock, I actually get to put it away and go home to my family and concentrate and, you know, and change that perspective. Or, you know, maybe on the other end, does this job bring me happiness? Because, you know, I might be working 60 hours a week, but man, I like every bit of it is just
Time
my
flies.
passion and my love, and I can't get enough of it. So thinking about where you are on that continuum is kind of an important part of our evolution. And I think people are starting to realize that more and more.
The one thing I love about my job, you know, I mentioned that I get to be in the know and I get to help promote the university and all the exciting things that are happening. And there's no shortage of accolades and accomplishments at ISU. And I think that's the best part because it feeds my optimism. I'm like, man, there's so many great things happening. And it's just crazy to see all these exciting things and things you would never think about. But for me, it's a 24/7 job. You know, my job is, like I mentioned earlier, something could happen on a Saturday. And I get called in and we've got to figure it out and navigate a situation. A lot of events and activities happen in evenings and weekends, just the nature of our students and our alumni that we want to engage with. And so, you know, it's a 24/7 job. But one of the things for me that has been very important and that I appreciate about this job specifically is there's a great work-life balance. And you're like, well, you just said it's 24/7. But that's
also compared to what you're saying with reporting.
Yeah. It's not the 3 a.m. per
Yeah,
se. But there's a great work-life balance because it's a team. And it's not just on my shoulders. And so if I need to take time off, there's others that are here at the university that say, I've got your back. Go take some time off. Go rest and recharge and come back ready to, you know, tackle the next challenge. And it's very supportive that way. And so for me, I was looking for a culture, a work family, you know, having friends at work and collaborating with people that are like-minded and optimistic and excited. And so that was something I wanted to find in my life. And I've been very happy to have found here at ISU.
Yeah, I think that's extremely important to find in your area of work are the people that I'm working with going to be somewhat in the same realm as me? You know, they don't have to be ideologically, politically, religiously, anything like exactly like me, but you know, what are our core values kind of on the same level? And you know, personality wise, can we get along?
Yeah.
Can we have a good time?
And sitting around the table, I love being part of a team. When you sit around the table, everybody brings something different. They have a different life experience, a different background, different viewpoints, and you sit around the table because that consensus allows you to get the best decision made, not just your decision or a colleague's. You can talk it out and you can say, man, how do we do this in the right way?
Right.
And get to that place.
I think especially with a lot of what you do, which is communicating to, like you're saying, kind of a very like broad kind of swath of people. You got to have those voices at the table.
Yeah.
You know, like how are we reaching students? How are we reaching underserved students? How are we reaching this demographic? And personally, I can't speak, obviously, to how what they bring to the world, their lens, their background. So yeah, it's important. That's also something that I love working at universities. You do have kind of a nice mix of diversity coming together for a common goal.
Yeah, and when you talk about communications and the diversity in messaging, a piece of content or a TV commercial or a billboard that my team is creating might resonate with one group but not another. And so we have to say, okay, how do we diversify the content we're creating, whether it's a news release or a new website or a video asset, so that it will resonate with different groups at different times and different calls to action with those groups. And so you think about undergrad students and graduate students and in-state students, out-of-state students, international students. Well, even just looking at our current students, there's a number of buckets that have to,
Yeah.
be recognized and filled with content.
Definitely. And so you're talking a lot about the content that we're putting out. A part of your job, which you mentioned briefly earlier, but that I find very intriguing is, I might butcher the term for it, but brand management.
Yeah.
Brand
Yeah.
Can you speak to that a little bit and why it's important?
Brand management it's a fun part of my job. And I kind of hesitate because it's the part of my job that I often don't think about because it's tied into everything. It's tied into your communications. It's obviously part of marketing. It's part of the event services that I oversee on my team as well. Branding is part of everything we do at Idaho State University. And brand isn't just colors and logos and taglines and themes.
Mm-hmm.
Our brand is who we are. It should be reflective of what we want Idaho State University to be known for. To whom is it known? When a legislator thinks about Idaho State, our brand is part of what they recollect and recognize. Prospective students sitting in high school out in Mackay, Idaho, what are they thinking about our brand and what is it telling them? And logos are important. Obviously, we want to make sure that they're the right logo and the right shade of orange. It's so funny.
Right.
We spend so much time on the shade of orange.
Oh, I know. Orange.
The orange.
Yeah.
And orange is important. And it truly is because that shade of orange needs to be recognizable. When somebody sees it on the side of the interstate on a billboard, they need to be able to say, that's the ISU orange.
Right.
That's orange.
Without looking at
Without
the text.
looking.
Yeah.
But that orange is then reflective of what Idaho State University means. What are we known for? What's our competitive context? What do we excel at? And how are we helping change the lives of our students? That's what our brand is. It's about the students. But the visual parts of it become that story. And so when I talk about brand management, I kind of chuckle because sometimes we get too fixated on the logos and the colors and making sure, are we using the right template? Is this the right font? Is this the right roar and all of that? And it's like, it's all reflective of who we are. And that's why it's important. We want to make sure that we're using the right logo because when somebody sees that logo, we want them to say, oh, that's Idaho State University. And Idaho State University helps students to better their lives. And so that's why, we put so much emphasis on branding.
It's fascinating. I love hearing the psychology of something like that.
And the cool part, I'll say one more thing about orange because I laugh about the color orange. I like orange personally, and so I know it's not everybody's favorite color, but I like to tell our students and employees, when you come on campus, orange doesn't have to be your favorite color, but while you're at ISU, it needs to be part of your color palette. You don't have to love it. I don't want you to go home and paint your living room wall orange. There's absolutely not. But while you're here, it's part of who we are. It's part of what it means to be at Idaho State University. And orange is a color of attention. It's
Certainly.
the color of take notice. When you think about where else is orange used, it's on traffic cones and construction signs. And, it's that look out or pay attention. And that's what we want. We want people to say, oh my gosh, that's ISU. Look out. There's something great going on. It's exciting. Take notice.
Yeah. Fascinating. As we wrap up here, do you have any words of advice for career seekers out there, be they just starting here in their college experience or maybe mid-career thinking about a switch? What would you say?
Yeah. The first thing is explore lots of careers. When I was young, I thought I want to be a TV, journalist, and I was fixated on that. And I don't regret that trajectory in my life by any means, but I think I might have got a little bit of tunnel vision and thought, this is what I got to do. I've always thought this is what I was going to do. And I did an internship in college at a TV station, and I loved it. And it really opened some doors and opportunities for me. And so I would say, first of all, don't have tunnel vision. Explore lots of opportunities. Take those career aptitude tests, talk to people, figure out what's out there. There's a lot of careers that we don't even know about. And the careers of tomorrow aren't even... we don't even know yet what's going to be in 10 years, what those careers are. So I would say first and foremost, don't have that tunnel vision. Take advantage of internship opportunities. We have our great CPI program at Idaho State University where, these career path interns go out into the community and have these awesome experiences. That's important. We want students to be able to have that real life experience and learn along the way. And one of the things they may learn is, this is not the job for me, and I'm glad I learned it now. So I'd say that. And then the third thing is every job out there has some sort of component related to communications. You have to have strong verbal and written communications. And if that's not your natural gift, or you need to fine tune it a little bit, focus on that. While you have the ability to take classes and be at a university, and communication is going to be part of every job now and in the future. And so being able to say, I gotta fine tune my written communications. I gotta work on how I interact with other people and my ability to verbally communicate. And so I'd say, communications is that third thing that every job requires it.
Beautiful. Thanks for coming in today, Stuart.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm gonna get some orange paint for the living room. And that was my conversation with Stuart. I love his thoughts on being optimistic and bringing that into your work, and taking the time to figure out where you need to be. And if you need to make a move, think about the skills that you need to be working on to make that a smooth transition. If you're interested in finding out more about your career pathway or how to develop some of your skills, please feel free to visit the Idaho State University Career Center website at isu.edu/career. Likewise, if you're interested in some other jobs and what those entail, all of our past episodes of Pathways are found on Spotify and YouTube and at kisu.org. Likewise, once a month on Wednesdays at 7, the second Wednesday of every month, you can hear the radio broadcast of Pathways on KISU Radio. From Pathways and the Idaho State University Career Center, I'm Mark Beaver, wishing you a fantastic